I got beef with Dave Ramsey.
Really? I didn't know that. Okay.
Not really.
I just get it. Yeah.
It's just the advice that
Yeah.
I was really good in business. I made a lot of money. I did everything right. But there's this whole global financial system that I'm not paying attention to. It has all this power over my life. Bitcoin allows us, I call it the cheat code, because I can literally just buy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I can outperform every single hedge fund, every single private equity fund, every single venture fund, and I can just buy that.
How much Bitcoin do you have?
Yeah, I have.
Mark Moss,
Yeah, here we are.
thanks for being here.
We made it happen.
Thanks for doing this, man. Bitcoin Asia in Hong Kong. You just spoke yesterday about Bitcoin and AI.
Yeah.
And how both of those are going to be disrupting pretty much everything over the next few years.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm super excited to talk to you is because both of us are actually very similar in the fact that we're both digital marketers.
Yep.
That's actually how we got connected.
Yep.
But the one thing that I actually want to kick this podcast off that I love about you is you always talk about first define the problem,
Yes.
right? First
Yes.
define the problem.
100%.
Because a lot of people in this world, they don't actually know the problem they're trying to solve.
I love that you picked up on that. Yes.
Of course. And the reason why I want to start off with that is because obviously we're here, there's 18,000 people in Asia, the first conference in Asia for Bitcoin specifically. What was Bitcoin's problem? What was Bitcoin the solution for you when it came to the problem you were trying to solve?
I love that you framed it up that way. A podcast I just came from, they asked, what advice would you have for 30 to 40-year-olds that are trying to figure this out? And I said, define your problem.
Yeah.
So I love that you picked that up. So really all about life is about trying to figure out what problem we're trying to solve.
Yeah.
So when everybody asks me advice, should I buy Bitcoin? I don't know what problem you're trying to solve.
Yeah.
Should I buy real estate? I don't know what problem you're trying to solve. So for me, what happened is early in my career, started in real estate. I built up 2 different tech companies. I had some really big exits. I crushed it. I kind of retired. I sold two of my companies, got married, had a kid, and I was done. And then the 2008 great financial crash came and wiped me out. And I was like, what just happened? I was really good in business. I made a lot of money. I did everything right. But there's this whole global financial system that I'm not paying attention to. It has all this power over my life. So that was devastating. I vowed to myself, my wife, I'm going to go figure this out, and I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen to us again.
Yeah.
That was my problem.
Gotcha.
Right?
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, my problem is the financial system wiped me out. I don't know anything about it. I understand the business system. So that's my problem. I go figure that out. And I went to go figure out the financial system. I quickly realized it's a fiat, debt-based monetary system. That means that the money supply always expands. That means that we built up all this leverage in the system. The leverage in the system created this great financial collapse scenario that happened. Okay, that's the problem. Endless debasement. Okay, the solution then I had to go find was gold.
Yeah.
This is 2008, 2009. So gold, I became a gold bug. Okay, so the problem is fiat, endless debasement. The solution is gold. And so I understood the problem solution very well. When I finally got into Bitcoin, I grasped it very quickly because I understood the problem I was trying to solve, and I understood sound money was the solution.
Yeah.
And so I recognized that Bitcoin being sound money was the solution to the world.
And when was that?
So that
The Bitcoin.
Well, so that was in 2015.
Okay.
Now, like most people, I heard about Bitcoin before I bought it.
Yeah.
But it was around probably 2013. My business partner at the time was like, hey, check out this Bitcoin thing. It's going up. We should buy some. But I didn't really pay attention other than it was going up in value. It went up to like about $1,000 and it crashed.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, glad I didn't buy that.
Yeah.
But in 2015, another problem I was trying to solve. So still PTSD from the great financial crash. Understanding that this leverage in the banking system never got resolved. Understanding that the problem had only gotten worse. I was sort of thinking that things could crash again. And so I was in the process in 2015. I had just hired an attorney in Panama. And I was working on getting a trust set up in Panama. I wanted to get money moved out of the U.S. into the Panama banking system. And I wanted to work on getting a residency and a passport there. And so that was the problem I was trying to solve then. So when Bitcoin came across my lap again in 2015, I was like, wait a minute. The problem I'm trying to solve is get money out of the banking system. But Panama is still sort of the banking system. Bitcoin is out of the banking system. That's the problem I'm trying to solve. That makes sense to me.
Wow.
And so it clicked right there.
Gotcha. So it's interesting because I feel like right now, a lot of my audience that subscribes to me, they follow me because they have a high-ticket coaching business. They sell courses, online information products. They make good money online, right? But I've realized over the last year especially, which is why we connected over Bitcoin specifically, most of them are great at making money online. But not a lot of them actually know what money is.
Yeah.
Or like what you had to go through, which was that this is a debt-based monetary system.
Yep.
And it's all built on a house of cards. So I'm trying to educate them about Bitcoin. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because they don't know Bitcoin and what the power it has to preserve the power of our purchasing power. So, you know, I'm curious with you, because you are also a digital marketer like me. Like, how did you start tying digital marketing into everything? Because you said you started in real estate originally.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, I started in real estate, and then, I mean, I've always had multiple things going on
course,
at that
yeah.
time. But I started in real estate, but I started a high-tech medical equipment company that I sold off to the largest medical company in the world, Henry Schein. Big exit there. I had an e-commerce business. I started in 2001.
Okay.
Built that up in 2008, had a big exit there. And so those all involve marketing.
Of course, yeah.
Then I moved into lead generation.
Yeah.
So I was doing lead generation for mostly financial services, mortgage, tax, attorneys, things like that. And so that was all digital marketing as well. So that's sort of where I was in. So I had exited my businesses. I had to kind of rebuild things. I rebuilt things through a digital marketing framework, direct response ads, lead generation. My partner and I were the largest solar lead generators at one point in time in the nation. And then when I got into Bitcoin, it wasn't to get into the Bitcoin space. It was just me buying it to preserve my wealth.
You were interested in it.
What happened is not a lot of people talked about it and knew about it in 2015, 2016. And word started spreading pretty quickly. Hey, Mark, talk to Mark. And I answered the same question over and over and over and over. So I'm like, I should just make a video so I don't have to answer the same question.
Gotcha.
But they weren't like public YouTube videos. They were just like private videos.
Oh, I see.
And then it was like, I got into the crypto thing. So it was like, hey, here's my portfolio. And then that kind of turned into a product at some point. But what I would say back to the digital marketing areas,
they're good at making money,
is that for most of those people in that space, in our space, you have an amazing business to make a lot of money, but it's a lifestyle business. Yeah. It's a personal brand business. I don't want to say it's not a real business. It is, but it's not a business that builds up equity value that's really transferable.
Yeah.
Right? So you have a really high income business. It's a lifestyle business, but you're not building something that you're going to sell in a couple years. And so some people try to think it is, and they spend a lot of money and a lot of time trying to build into something, but it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I think understanding what you have, I have a high income business, I can make a lot of money, my profit margin is very high. So the question is then, what do I do with that money while I'm making it?
Yeah.
And that's the question they need to answer. So the problem they should solve. So I'm making this money.
Yeah.
Where do I want to invest it? How do I make sure that it sustains me over a lifetime? Yeah. So option one, I could reinvest it back into my business. I could try to scale it. I could try to go from like this personal brand, lifestyle business, and turn into a real business I could sell.
Yeah.
See. Okay, maybe not. Okay, I could invest it into real estate. So I could buy, rental units, apartment buildings, Airbnb, stuff like that. I could buy S&P 500 index funds. I could buy gold, or I could buy Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
So then so now I have to compare those things against each other. Now, as somebody who started in real estate, I owned over 200 rental doors at one point. Well, by, I think 2021, I had gotten rid of all my rental units. I still own real estate, but like properties I use. But I got rid of all my rental real estate because most rental real estate is going to go up 5 to 8%, maybe 10% if you're doing good. But then you have all the headaches and the maintenance issues and all those things. And Bitcoin over the last 5 years is going up 85% a year. The last 3 years up 60% a year. So I like 60% better than I like 6%. Mm-hmm. I like 60% with no hassles, no headaches, no tenants, better than I like 6% with that. We still have some properties that we use, but we Airbnb them. And my wife is like dealing with like the AC is not working and the hot tub didn't turn on and like what a nightmare. And so I think what happens is because we're in the debt-based monetary system, our money is losing about 10% of its value per year.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, we're forced to not just figure out how to make money, solve problems, hopefully, build value.
Yeah.
But I also have to figure out how to be an investor.
Yeah.
And the problem is now my focus is split between the two. So I'm not the best business person I could be, nor am I the best investor I could be.
Yeah.
And so now I'm trying to manage real estate. I'm trying to deal with trading this stock portfolio. But Bitcoin allows us, I call it the cheat code, because I can literally just buy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I can outperform every single hedge fund, every single private equity fund, every single venture fund, and I can just buy that and just do that. And I can keep all of my focus on my core thing.
You see, that's so interesting, though, because I watched another video you just recently put out about Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
And how I grew up also getting propagandized by Dave Ramsey because my parents, lower middle class, listening to Dave Ramsey, debt bubble, all these things, avoid Bitcoin like the plague, he would say back in the early days. I'm curious to hear your opinion on this because I grew up hearing the same thing, invest in 401k, get a good paying job out of college, S&P, mutual funds, all these things that he teaches for that legacy financial system.
Yeah.
But if Dave Ramsey had Bitcoin back in his day, do you think his opinion would have changed?
So Dave Ramsey, I got beef with Dave Ramsey.
Really? I didn't know that. Okay.
Not really.
I just get it. Yeah.
It's just the advice that
Yeah.
But what I would say, though, is Dave Ramsey's right for the majority of people. The best advice, well, what Dave Ramsey does is he gives practical, safe advice.
Yes.
So the average person should save.
Yeah.
And they should just put it into at least a mutual fund or a 401k at a minimum.
Yeah.
The safest advice when you go out on the waters, you should also wear a life jacket. You should probably never go in the ocean because there's sharks. You should probably never try and surf because the waves could drown you.
Yeah.
And so everything in life has risks. Yeah. And so certainly if I play with fire, I can burn myself, I can burn my house down, but I need fire to warm my house. I need fire to cook my food. So the goal isn't to avoid all risk. The goal is to learn how to mitigate the risk. So if I keep my fire in a fireplace, I can warm my house but not burn it down. If I keep it in my barbecue, I can make my food, right? And so while Dave Ramsey's right for most people, because most people are passively walking through life, I call it they're going down a pre-programmed track.
Yeah.
And so most people don't think about investing. So those people should at least try to save and do that. But for those of us that want a little bit more, I'm a surfer. So I learned how to swim. I learned how to deal with the waves. And when you look at people surfing really big waves, they have life jackets on. They use jet skis in the water. And so they've learned to mitigate those risks. And so if we want more from life, then we have to learn how to be advanced. And we understand that advanced requires me to increase my skills.
Yeah.
My skills of how to navigate it, how to mitigate it. And that means I'm taking more risk. But I believe that risk is in the investor, not the investment. So if someone said, hey, Mark, what's the best wave in the world to surf? I'd say, pipeline in Hawaii. But if you've never been in the water, do not go out there. You will drown.
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean? There's hundreds of people out there every day. Yeah, because the risk is not there. It's in the person that went in the water.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'd say. So Dave Ramsey's right. Most people sleepwalking through life, please at least save a little bit of money and put it in 401k. But for those of us that want more, realizing that we're losing 10% of our wealth per year and that 401k plan of Dave Ramsey is not going to get us there.
Yeah.
Realizing that most of us don't want to work for 40 years to have a little bit of savings that won't pay for us. Most of us want more, then we can work a little bit harder.
And it's so funny because I feel like most people don't realize that, at least for me, investing in the 401ks and all these other things, like that sounds way more complicated ever compared to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's so simple, like how Bitcoin actually is to actually save your money in Bitcoin. But most people think it's actually harder than it actually is.
Yeah.
And now it's actually a perfect transition because now we have Treasury companies popping up, right?
Yeah.
And you obviously recently partnered with Satsuma, right? One of the biggest Bitcoin Treasury companies that plans to be the biggest in the UK market and then potentially expanding from there.
Yep.
What would you say is like the difference between saving in Bitcoin or investing and putting some money into a treasury company like Satsuma or to any treasury company in general? What are the pros and cons for the everyday person that when they hear treasury company, they're like, what does that even mean? I'm just trying to learn Bitcoin first.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to the problem you're trying to solve.
Okay.
Right? So depending on where you're at in the world or where your money is, if your money's in a 401k, for example, maybe you can't buy Bitcoin.
My stepdad.
Right? You can't buy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So what I could do is I could buy a stock like MicroStrategy, strategy now, that sort of moves like Bitcoin. It's backed by Bitcoin, but it's a stock, right?
Yeah.
But also, maybe I'm 74 years old and I need income to pay my electricity bill, my rent, and my food, but my pension, my bond portfolio is paying me less than the rate of monetary debasement.
Yeah, 10%.
Right. So maybe, treasuries are paying me 4.5%, 5%. But that's not cutting it for me.
Yeah.
So maybe I want to go into one of these treasury stocks that pays me a 10% yield. And it's safer because it's backed by Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So it really kind of comes down to what you're trying to do there. But I would say what the treasury companies overall are doing is they're trying to take Bitcoin sort of like as a raw input. Think of it, I like to think of Satsuma as like a digital power plant.
Yeah.
So we take in raw energy and then we turn it into energy products. So different volts, different hertz, right? Different waves, etc. So we can take in a raw product like Bitcoin, and we can take the upside potential and we can thin slice that and turn it into different products that work for different people based off of what they're trying to solve.
Yeah.
You see, unfortunately, most people, because these are sort of advanced things, they think of everything so simply. Like in the Bitcoin community, they're like, just buy Bitcoin. And yes, you certainly should. But again, if I'm 73 years old, I can't just go hodl Bitcoin. I need income right now.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So we're taking the upside potential of Bitcoin, then slicing it, and then providing it in different ways for people to get different things. So for example, Bitcoin, as I said, is going up 60% a year, but it's volatile. It goes up and down. So if I need to pay my bills next month, but the price of Bitcoin dropped down, then that's bad for me.
Yeah.
So I might be willing to give up some of the volatility and some of the upside in order to have this stability.
Yeah.
Right? That's a trade-off I'm willing to make. And so that's what these companies are doing. We're taking this raw power, we're turning it into products that fit individual mandates and solving different problems for different people.
Yeah, it sounds like a great offer, especially for the person, like you said, who's on maybe a more fixed income, or even people that are even my age, 30 in their 30s, and they're looking to retire early, but they want to still be able to keep up with inflation, if not beat inflation, and also have some skin in the game there too.
And you have the common stock that's backed by Bitcoin. So that's like the company stock. And I think most treasury companies, Strategy, Metaplanet, I think Satsuma, we should outperform Bitcoin 2 to 3 times.
Wow.
So if Bitcoin goes up 10 times in the next 5 years, these will go up 20 or 30 times.
Interesting.
Right? But then what Strategy has done and what Metaplanet's now about to do and what we want to do is create additional products that are not all about the upside potential, but then they're like I said, different yielding products, dividend products, et cetera. So if I want maybe some more volatility, I want more explosive to the upside than just Bitcoin alone, then I'd buy the common stock. And so what happens is I think everyone should just, first of all, buy Bitcoin. Just buy Bitcoin.
Get off zero, yeah.
Get off zero, exactly. But then most portfolios, once you have a little bit of money, there's room for some risk. I figure I have my base allocation. Now, could I take a small percentage, 10, 20, 30%, and try to get some additional upside from there? And I think that's where these companies kind of come into play.
And it's actually very interesting because yesterday you said something that stuck with me. You said, because there's a lot of people out there that, especially my audience, they all create. There's 2 types of people in this world. It's creators, it's consumers, okay? We want to be creators, right? Because the consumers, they're the ones that get hit the most by inflation and obviously just the poor get poor. Unfortunately, taxes especially. So with your presentation yesterday, you talked about AI and Bitcoin and how most people believe AI is actually going to remove tons of jobs. And there's this doom and gloom scenario, but you actually said something interesting. You said AI is actually going to offer tons of new opportunities. More jobs and workplaces that people can take advantage of because of the AI technological revolution. And so for the creators out there or the consumers, what would you say are some predictions that you have for the AI space specifically, or even the Bitcoin space, of opportunities they have to take advantage of new work styles or new opportunities to increase their career, even if they've been used to doing something for the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Because we all know that, again, they should buy Bitcoin, right? But you have to have the income to buy the Bitcoin. You got to have the excess capital every single month besides your expenses to actually allocate money to Bitcoin.
You got to create more than you consume.
Of course.
And that's a great point that you bring up, because I see way too many people that come into this world and they want to quit their job and be a full-time investor. And you look at Warren Buffett or Ray Dalio and these investors that made all this money, legacy wealth, but they don't realize that Warren Buffett wasn't just an investor. He created a company called Berkshire Hathaway. Went to work at a company every day. And Ray Dalio created a company called Bridgewater Capital, right? So they weren't just investors, they had a business. And so I think it's important for people to understand the distinction. But what I would say is certainly create more than you consume, save the difference. But with AI, it's such an amazing potential. Number one, as you said, it's not doom and gloom. All the technological revolutions we've had, we're on our 6th one now, have Every single time they've said they're going to take all the jobs, but every single time they've created more jobs than they've taken. But there is some displacement. Some jobs go away.
Of course.
So when automobiles came out, the people that made the horse buggies, not as many people wanted horse buggies anymore.
Of course, yeah.
Right? But then all of a sudden now there's a whole automobile industry that wasn't there before. Right?
Yeah.
So I think, for the people that are lazy, I'm just going to call them out.
Yeah.
The people that are lazy and they just want I just want to do the same thing every day for the rest of my life and I want you to pay me more and more for the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? For them, it's not going to work out super well because your job could get displaced. But for those of us that are creators, it's an amazing opportunity because I like to say that the future is not evenly distributed.
Yeah.
So right now we have this period of time, maybe a year or 2 years, where we as creators, especially in this digital asset space, can leverage AI to get way ahead of everybody else. It gives us a way to reinvent ourselves.
Yeah.
It gives us a way to create new products that we didn't know that we could create before. And so there's amazing opportunities for us. And then what we want to do is we use that increased efficiency. So for example, in my own business, we've been able to scale my business faster. We didn't fire people, but we maybe didn't hire as many people.
Yeah.
Which means my profitability went up. And I take that extra profit and I put that into Bitcoin, right? So we do that. But I think that's the opportunity. I think we look at it as things happen for us and not to us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
These tools are here for me to grow, not to punish me. I think everyone in this creator space is uniquely positioned to take advantage of it.
And one thing that also you said yesterday on the panel in the Deep VIP Lounge was you were speaking with the other gentleman who I can't remember his name right now. Yes, he was very smart as well. And he said something that I wanted to pick your brain on here. He said, it's going to be more about the future, especially as AI disrupts everything. Location, not allocation.
Yeah.
And not your keys, not your drones. And what he was meaning by that was in the future of potential war or scenarios where there is issues with the government, he actually predicts that drones are going to be on the blockchain.
Right.
And the location you live in is actually going to be more important than how much you have allocated to assets and capital in most cases. And I'm curious, you live in Southern California, one of the most beautiful, I think, places that I think anybody could ever live. Are you bullish on California into the future with location?
Yeah, it's a great question with a lot of nuance. I would say that
Obviously, there's different scenarios. Kids, obviously, family,
Yeah.
different. Well, better question for you would be, what are the locations you look into the future and think those are the good locations that are pro-Bitcoin, pro-values that I believe in, and into this future that we're going to head into?
What I would say, what Balaji said is location more important than allocation. I think that's always been true.
Yeah.
It's always been true. So for example, if I wanted to be in tech and I would have moved to Silicon Valley 20 years ago, just going out to restaurants and bars and the country club, I would have met the people to do deals with. The energy of that environment would have allowed me to grow way faster than if I was in Kansas City.
Yeah.
Or if I was in, Michigan or whatever, right? You could say the same thing about Austin, Texas, where if I want to be in the creator space,
True.
and I moved to Austin, Texas,
Yeah.
now the energy of the creator space and the people doing the podcast was all right there.
Yeah.
And I would develop and grow faster there than somewhere else, right? So I think it's always been true. What he's talking about specifically, though, is there are some areas of the world that are falling into major decline. And so being around those areas could be very dangerous. And so it'd be hard to build wealth. It'd be hard to keep wealth.
Yeah.
So, broadly speaking, what he would say is the blue states are the areas to stay away from, and the red states are where you'd want to be. So the blue states, California being one of them, although I think it could turn red here. But Colorado is a textbook. Actually, there's a book written about how Colorado turned blue. But the blue states typically don't respect private property rights, parents' rights, economic rights, and things like that properly. So it's really hard to build wealth and keep wealth there. So for example, in California, they give tenant rights. So if somebody were to break into my house and stay there for a day or two before I realized, and they knew how to use the legal system, they could stay there legally for
Squatters.
up to 6 months. Squatters,
Yeah, right.
If a tenant was renting my property and stopped making the payment,
It's insane.
they could stay there for up to 6. California would protect their right, the tenant, to stay in my house for 6 months. But I got to make my payment.
Yeah.
So how do I make my payment? Now I'm bankrupt. I lose my property. So for me, as I said, I was a real estate investor. I own my home there, but I would never buy rental property in California or any blue state for that matter, right? I wouldn't really want to start a business in California, which is why all the businesses have left California.
Yeah, 100%.
Had to move like to Texas, a red state.
Miami as well.
Florida as well. We saw just recently Elon Musk had this deal with Tesla where it was based in Delaware, and he had a compensation package that was to unlock and pay him for the work that he's done to develop Tesla. And the state of Delaware blocked that and said, no, you can't get that money, even though it's his and it was, per the terms of the corporation. So they left Delaware and they're moved, right? And so, that's where the location is more important than allocation, because if you're not in the right area that will protect your rights to grow your business, to make wealth, to keep your wealth, then I could allocate properly, but the state just took that from me.
Yeah.
Now, as I said, there's some nuance there. So I'm in California, but I'm out of the system. So my kids are not in the public school system there.
Of course, yeah.
Because I have no rights as a parent with my kids in the public school system. So my kids are not in that system. I own businesses in California, but technically they're global businesses, not like headquartered in California. So there's that. I don't have any investment stuff in California. So like I'm there, I'm living there, but I'm not really subject to that. So
It's just the place you live, you like it, that's where you grow your family,
But also, if I lived in any of the inner cities, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Baltimore, Chicago, Detroit, etc., I mean, then there's violence, then there's potential, not just loss of property, potential loss of life. And so those are bad. And so sort of back to the example of moving to Silicon Valley for tech or moving to Austin, Balaji talks about maybe thinking about the next 10 years.
Yeah.
So if I really want the next 10 years of my life to flourish, and even more specifically, what about my kids?
Yeah.
So for example, as a young kid, I grew up in Texas. When I was 12 years old, my parents moved to California. Looking back on that, at the time I wasn't too happy. I was 12, what did I know? Looking back on it, it was great, because then I grew up in California sort of in the heyday and through the tech boom and all of that. And I look back to where I used to live in Texas, Corpus Christi, and it hasn't changed. And my life would have been so different if I stayed there. So I might want to think about, maybe I should move to Singapore or Hong Kong or Dubai and let my kids grow up in that environment, because for the next 10, 20 years for their life would be really important. So that's really where you have to think about that location versus allocation.
It's so funny you bring that up, because I actually grew up in Texas as well. My parents moved us from San Antonio. We used to visit Corpus Christi because it was the only place that had a beach. And we moved to Arizona. So had I stayed in San Antonio, I mean, my life would be completely different, just like yours. So speaking of kids in 10 years, and then we'll wrap it up here, security. I mean, especially with Bitcoin, as we know, the asset that we have, the savings technology that it has, this is something that I think about a lot, because obviously there's so many ways you can secure it. There's single sig, there's multi-sig, there's wills, there's trusts. And obviously, without getting any specific, I mean, one thing that I'm always curious about is, okay, thinking 10 years out, I just had my first daughter, right? So she's 3 months old.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Amazing. And I think about her, and hopefully, God willing, we have more kids, right? Protecting those assets that we have now into the 10 years and 20 years, knowing what we have in our possession. What do you see? Because this is going to continue to evolve, obviously, but what do you see right now, today, being maybe the easiest way to protect it, but also to set our kids up for the future, as security is obviously a huge risk? Because you can get crazy with it. I've heard you can have one wallet for checking, right? One wallet for savings, multi-sig, right? But then you got to trust a third party potentially.
And it's one of those things that the more you have, the more you have to think about it.
Yeah.
The more you have, the more complex of a system you have to set up. So again, like the Bitcoin maximalists that are trying to get their first, 0.1 Bitcoin are like, just buy Bitcoin, put it into cold storage. But as you get more, you do different things. So for me, for example, I have Bitcoin ETF.
Yeah.
Because I have accounts that I can only get access to there. I have Bitcoin on exchanges.
Yeah.
I have Bitcoin in multi-sig. I have Bitcoin on single sig. I got Bitcoin on my phone. I got Bitcoin in Venmo, right? Like, it starts going everywhere.
Gotcha.
And so the more you have to start thinking about it differently. But back to your question, when I think about my kids and future generations, so we have two things we have to think about. One, we have custody, and two, we have ownership. And those are not the same. Okay? So custody is I have the key.
Okay.
I have the private key to that. But then ownership is who owns it. And so, for example, I want to think of custody, who has my key, but for my kids, if I were to die, how does the ownership of that asset get transferred? Right?
Yeah.
Now, if, my kid's old enough and they know about Bitcoin, like, hey, son, if I die, my key's in that safe, go get it, right? But again, when you have more Bitcoin, you have to kind of think about what are all the assets that I own, and how do I pass those down legally to my heirs?
Yes.
And there's some things I have to take into consideration. So like number one, how do I make sure that my heirs get these assets without being taxed to death, without going through probate, without paying inheritance tax? I also have to think about if they get these assets, what are they going to do with them, right? So what I would do, you have your daughter, she's new, daughter, right?
Yeah, 3 months old,
Yeah, 3-month-old daughter. So, if you had Bitcoin on an exchange, for example, make sure you have your username and your password and your wife can get it, or your attorney has some sort of a will and there's an executor of your will that, hey, if something happens to my wife and I, it's here, right? So you definitely want to make sure that your daughter's taken care of and somebody knows about the assets that you have and knows how to access them.
Yeah.
I like to work with Unchained Capital.
Okay.
And they have a really good inheritance plan. So for my dad, I bought it for him for Christmas a few years ago. And they walked him through this process so that if something happens to him, he can pass that Bitcoin down to us. So it's in a multi-sig, we know how to get it, things like that. So that's number one, that's the ownership. But then I want to, if you have more assets, for me, I want to think about what are the rules that are put in place over my assets. So I put in place what's called a family constitution. And these are the rules at which these assets will be managed forever in perpetuity. Wow. So for example, I don't want my kids to sell the Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Ever.
Wow.
I don't want my grandkids or great-grandkids to sell that Bitcoin. I want the money that I leave to help my kids or my grandkids, but I don't want it to turn into a crutch for them. So we set rules. So for example, if my kids or my heirs, great-grandkids, if they have a business and a job and they make money, they can qualify for a house, we'll give them the money for a down payment.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
But you don't get 10 grand a month to do nothing.
Yeah.
If you have a business plan that's well thought out and maybe you've proved that it can work and the trustee has looked at it and says good, we'll give you the money.
Gotcha.
For example, right?
Yeah.
So the money is there to help them, but no one's going to make 15 grand a month and do nothing and turn into a drug addict or whatever. And so then I put rules, and then there's other rules. So for example, I'm a freedom maximalist. And if you decide that you want to be a little COVID Hitler, then no money for you.
Yeah.
You don't support those things.
Of course. Values.
I value health.
Principles.
If you want to do things for your health, then there's money for you.
Awesome.
Right? So we put rules around it. So with the values that I hold, I want to make sure my heirs, future generations, have the same values that I hold dear. And they're living in conjunction with that. And as long as they are, then that money's there to help them. And so that's kind of how I think about it.
And you said that was
the ownership of that.
Yeah.
And then two, what are the rules that money gets used? I call it a family constitution.
Family constitution. Wow, that's amazing. We'll wrap it up here. Last question. How much Bitcoin do you have?
Yeah, I have enough.
I like it.
I mean, the only thing, what did I think Michael Saylor said? The only thing better than Bitcoin is more Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I should say enough, but what Howard Hughes, when he was one of the richest men in the world, they said, how much is enough? He said, a little bit more. and I don't hold that worldview. So I mean, yeah, I have enough. I've done well. Pretty much all I buy is Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I own real estate. But those are what I call trophy assets.
Yeah.
So I have this beautiful ranch property in Austin that we go out to, and
I've seen your stories.
I have cows and goats out there, and we go out there, and that's my safety insurance plan. And we just recently built this beautiful beach house in Cabo, and so we have assets that we use. We have toys and whatever, things like that. But as far as all our investments, it's all in Bitcoin. I have my businesses as well. So it's the asset that I'm going to keep buying forever. I'm going to buy every top that comes, and I'm going to buy it at 500,000, I'm going to buy it at 1 million, and I'm going to buy it at 5 million, and I'm going to continue to convert all my fiat into Bitcoin as fast as I can. And then the goal is to never sell the Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And we do that. We harvest the appreciation gain of Bitcoin by using debt, and we never sell the asset.
Yeah, 100%. AI, Bitcoin, land for safety and protection of the family. Get a farm, guys. I'm doing it with my wife in Medellin, Colombia. Mark Moss, follow him on YouTube. He's closing in on 1 million subscribers. You're going to learn so much by subscribing to his channel. Mark, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.